What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Tammy, aka the Cannabis Cutie, and I'm here today to bring forth some new content. So, in the world of cannabis influencing, we have influencers that educate us and make us laugh. And then we have influencers that are dedicated to the advocacy. So, welcome to my new series, How to Be an Advocate. Today, I have with me one of the most recognizable cannabis influencers from my stories and one of my really good friends. We have the Ganja guru, my boy Roger.
What's up? Thank you for having me. This is dope.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah,
All
this is
right,
great.
so I have a few questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're a cannabis advocate, right?
I am a cannabis advocate.
Okay, why?
I feel I've been a user for so long, and whenever you learn more, what's the good old cliche saying? When you know better, you do better.
Yes.
And I feel like that kind of it related to me in cannabis because I had been a daily user for so long, and then I realized like there's this whole war on drugs, there's this whole cannabis industry, there's this whole like media push behind it, but then there's also people who laid the foundation that are really paying the price. And that's we know the world's not fair, but in a way that I can do my little work to be able to make the wrong righted a little bit more. And that was what I decided to do, rather than just be like this big consumer overconsumption specialist or like making people laugh behind it. Or let's do that, but let's also give homage to the people who have laid that foundation. So I find when we're smoking cannabis even just outside our home, that's an act of rebellion.
Yeah.
So like, let's make sure that we're doing it with intention. Like, let me make sure that I'm saying the message that I want to say when I'm doing the message that is imagery in itself. Like, so what my shirts will always be advocacy. my clothes, like how I carry myself will always be that thing that says, this is not just an unintentional use. It's a reason behind my light up, behind my roll up. Like sometimes, we've been out to eat and I'll roll the blunt at the restaurant because that's breaking stigma right there. I don't have to smoke it because that's discipline, which is also breaking stigma. When you show that somebody that has not been a thing previously is now a thing. Like, it blows your mind on what you thought it was.
Yeah.
So everything that I do is intentional with like, let's change the message behind cannabis imagery, behind like what has been the stoner imagery for so long.
Yeah.
And it's fun, but it's also a lot of hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So yeah, you definitely have rolled a post-dinner blunt at restaurants in LA.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think it's great because you won't go into a setting like that telling any other person that they can't have their medicine after their meal, because that's really normal. Like after dinner, you take your medication.
Yeah.
For some people, that's their insulin. For some people, that's their blood regulators. For us, that's cannabinoids. Like let's and I don't have to smoke it here in the restaurant, but I want to be ready to walk out the door and get right to it.
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes it's met with the cool server that's like, oh man, I like that. And I usually will pass on something to him. But sometimes it's an educational moment where someone will try to stop you for what you're doing. And you think about kids and you think about how people are taking on the seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're actually having wine at your dinner table and you're going to drive your kids home.
Ooh.
That's not what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
This is just me preparing my medication. Like I'm just making sure that my things are ready. They're in line. And most of the time, people, they learn a lesson and they're really open. I found that people are really open. They say, well, you're right. And when I tell them that they're going to be triggering some sort of anxiety or anything in my mind that cannabis could help, they don't want to do more of that.
Yeah.
So they see how it can actually be a helpful process.
Okay. I think that's great. And you're right. It is an educational moment. We have had a moment at a restaurant where she was not happy and for the rest of dinner.
Yeah. And that was messed up. That was really messed up. But I also understood that.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I know she was like a generational piece.
It was, and we've talked about this in the Higher Learning Book Club. the baby boomer generation is the least tolerant and most affected by the
Mm-hmm.
propaganda that was put out about cannabis. And she was of that
Yeah,
generation
absolutely.
and was very offended.
But there's so many things that the baby boomers were miseducated on about our
Yeah.
generation. Even when it comes to
Right.
fashion, like there's a whole group of people that don't talk to their kids or grandkids because they sag their pants.
Ah.
More propaganda that was put on by the same thing that's cannabis, like,
Mhm.
you know, just to demonize a thing that is more so a group of people
Yeah.
than the actual thing that you're demonizing.
Correct.
Because people, we all love to like give people their freedom in everything that they do.
Yeah.
But when the whole demographic of, you know, younger blacks started sagging their pants, that was a thing that was demonized.
Yes.
But people can do whatever. Like when we love to have, you know, men wearing dresses, women wearing pantsuits. We love everybody to be free in what they want to do.
Yeah, and their own
But that was
expression.
one moment when it was like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you kind of have that same parallel when it comes to cannabis. It's
Yeah.
been a just a campaign against something that is general to a group of people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to demonize the group of people, so
Right.
you demonize the things that the group of people do.
Exactly. It's a collective agreement. You guys have all decided that we're going to look at this thing and think this way
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm.
That's and it's just kind of like tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
And-
that was a big part of it. But you're right. I mean, even educating people like, hey, you actually have alcohol. And when I go to a grocery store and I see like at Ralph's or Vaughn's the wall of alcohol, and I'm like, wow, a couple of those bottles have death in them.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like, and they, I mean,
Mhm.
all of them have poison. They're
They all
literally
have poison,
selling
but there's going to be
bottles of poison.
something. It is going to be the cause of or responsible for why
Mhm.
someone died, and it was just kind of like, whoa, that is dark. And it's all beautifully packaged and the commercials, and it's in every restaurant. Airports are like only bars and gates now.
Yeah,
Like,
that's it.
it is, we are, and it's a drug. It's like we are centered around drug use in this nation.
And the thing is, like, how do you, especially being a cannabis advocate, being able to conceptualize like what's going on? It's like the biggest, you know, the meme where Mr. Krabs is in is like in the Krusty Krabs and everything is just moving. It's like, what is going on? Because you can know that something is so good for you, and you see it being demonized, and you can see the things that are really bad for us personally and us as society are being championed in every regard. So that's kind of like when it comes to, when we talk about being an advocate, I don't drink anymore because like whenever we talk about how cannabis is medicine and cannabis can help, and I call it cannabinoid therapy on the regular, like when instead of smoking, it's cannabinoid therapy. So when I'm consuming my cannabis to be helpful in every aspect of my daily function or daily synchronicity, I can't really have a an idea of how this is helping if I'm constantly putting what I just said is poison, what I just said is death in my body. And like, I love to have a social moment with my friends, but that's what's great is like now cannabis is being able to be explored and researched enough to where I have so many different options to enjoy a bev with my friends, and it not just be something that's gonna tarnish my liver, tarnish my insides, and then make me do questionable things, or make me depressed.
They say cannabis, it'll make you depressed. No, that is alcohol. You feel so depressed the next day after you're coming off of it. There's no joy in your life. You are miserable and depressed. So you're absolutely right. But just to pivot a little bit, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges and hurdles of being a cannabis advocate?
It's the Olympics, because it's hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. But I think it is when you know that life comes with challenges and you can kind of orchestrate your challenges to be ones that are in alignment with what you're trying to push, it works out. Because you know what I'm going through right now, and just being profiled in the state of Florida based on the outfit, and it was a choice to wear cannabis leaves and palm tree leaves in a place where, you know, cannabis is not legal. But that doesn't give those people who have been traditional in American history forever, like, it doesn't give them the opportunity to do what they've been doing, because we have new systems in place for accountability. And so now I have to be a pinnacle for that, and like I have to know that people are going to jail, and people are you know, doing all these things that are making laws change and making people see the plant and the people differently. But when you have to be it, like, you know, you can wear the t-shirt all day, but until you have to put on the jumpsuit, it's like, oh man, this is a different type of feeling. And that's one thing that I've tried to find the silver lining in the process is saying, I've talked this talk for a long time, and now when it's time to walk it, I don't want to be just like this big dramatic, like,
Mm-hmm.
because I've known that the facts behind this, because I talk about the facts behind this. But being able to walk through it with your head high is a different thing. Being
Yeah.
able to be a light for other people that are going through it is a very big thing.
Yeah. Well,
Hopefully we can always all cross our fingers and just say, like, the justice system is doing its resettling, or like it's having an adjustment, I'll say, to where justice may be a new thing that we can see based on people holding things accountable.
yeah.
And a lot of times, like myself included, we want to be embarrassed by the reality of our cannabis usage,
Yeah.
or the things that come with
The
our
shame.
cannabis usage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, don't be ashamed. Just say it for what it is and embarrass the other person, because it's really embarrassing that police are policing people for cannabis, and
Yeah.
everybody knows how helpful it is.
Correct.
It's really embarrassing that the United States government would allow people to be in prison for
Yeah.
something that is been, the draft of their constitution. It's
Mhm.
embarrassing that they would say only certain people get these types of punishments for the thing that we know to be helpful,
Yeah.
and certain people get like a slap on the wrist or can pay their way out of certain things.
Well, let's talk about the war on drugs quickly. I mean, we know that the war on drugs is mostly aimed at younger men, and younger men who happen to be Black or brown.
Mhm.
And one thing that I was always taught by one of my coaches as a youth was, you have to be perfect.
Mhm.
And I never understood what he meant by it. But as you got older, you kind of see it's like, oh, you get profiled. There's already an assumption that you're doing something wrong. And if you give them any indication, they're going to use that and say their suspicion. So can you tell us about your arrest?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the state of Florida, which we all know can be questionable.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a day where I tend to think with intention, lead with intention. So I knew that I was going to be actually traveling from Orlando to
Mm-hmm.
Miami to visit a friend of mine from
Yeah.
college. Had done the drive. We did a little smoke in Miami, and then I was driving back to Orlando. No smoking in the car. I was in my mom's vehicle. I know how areas in between those cities can be, so
Mhm.
I was very much like respecting the law.
Yeah.
So I'm almost there, actually back to Orlando, and I stopped because I see gas was cheap. In LA gas is expensive. I saw a cheap gas spot, and I was like, I'm gonna fill up the car for my mom.
Yeah.
Pull into the gas station, and I see two police officers already have someone in a situation.
Okay.
Get in, get my gas, get a little water, use the restroom. In the process of doing that, those officers have let a guy go, and now they're in the gas station. And pretty quickly they see my silk up and down potent goods that has palm tree leaves and cannabis leaves
Yeah.
integrated in the
Beautiful,
print.
beautiful fabric.
Print.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Miami.
Yeah.
They see that. While I'm in the line checking out to get my water, I actually even feel like someone looking behind me.
You
And
feel
so
it burning on your back.
yeah, so I
Ugh.
look up, and the gas stations have that mirror up above the Bev container. So I see them looking at me, and I just speak because it's the South.
Yeah.
Like, not even being a smart ass, which I
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
Might have been being a smart ass.
Okay.
But I kept it very, it was a beautiful day. I didn't think anything of it because I knew I hadn't been doing anything wrong.
Right.
The only thing that I had done was had cannabis in the car, underneath the seat, tucked off in a beautiful box that says, "Hey, Ganja Guru, thanks for joining the family. We can't wait for you to try these new things." So I'm pulling out of the gas station.
Gifts.
They're gifts. Pulling out
Yeah.
of the gas station, the police officer pulls out behind me, and immediately it's a weird intersection. So we both do the weird exchange, and I'm getting right back on the interstate, and he puts his lights on immediately. And I'm like, well, I buckled up. No, I hadn't done anything wrong. This is
Yeah.
going to be a quick and easy situation.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Pop Brothers at law. Shut the fuck up. Like,
Yep.
don't say anything. So I know how to avoid the situation.
Yeah.
I get there. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" The nicest guy. Just
Yeah.
like, "You almost got in a car accident. That's just why I wanted to stop you, to let you know that you almost got in a car accident, but everything's fine. You're not going to get a ticket. Just want to check your license and registration, and you'll be on your way." Multiple times says I'm not getting a ticket. And he asked, I'm looking for my registration because it's my mom's car. I hand him my license really easily. And after, when I'm looking for my license, he says, "Is this your car? Is it a rental?" I tell him it's my mom's car. We're doing a family vacation right now. I'm going to pick them up right now. And he just says that I have to get out of the car for him to run my license. And I'm like, "Officer, that's not standard protocol at all. Like, I know that I don't need to get out of the car. You already told me I'm not in trouble. I'm not getting a ticket. Why would I get out of the car? This seems like a really crazy situation of escalation for no reason."
Yeah.
And I actually, he asked me, have I ever gotten in any trouble with the law, because he can see me shaking.
Yeah.
My only other time having any interaction was in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
10 years prior, me and my sister on a back road get stopped for no reason. When I say I pull over, there's a police officer behind me. I call 911 on Bluetooth on the speakerphone, say, "Hey, I'm being followed on a two-lane highway with no shoulder, no lights. I think there's a police officer, but I'm not in a safe space. So I just want to make sure that everything is safe." She stays on the phone with me until maybe 10 minutes later, when I'm able to stop in a safe, well-lit area. The police officer bangs on the door with the taser, immediately pulls me out the car and arrests me. This was my only previous experience with the law.
Okay.
So in Florida, in the same situation, I'm shook.
Yeah.
And so I tell him, like, I don't feel comfortable getting out the car. He's very kind, reassures me that it's just going to run my license, get out the car, and everything will be fine. So I get out the car. While he's running my license, 3 other police cars pull up. One of them happens to be a K-9 officer. And he makes me be able to, not even be able to. He asked me while he's running my license for consent to search the car. Of course, I don't give him consent to search the car. And they keep trying to coerce me, where it's like either that I give them consent or they're going to have the dog search it. Either way it goes, I don't give consent, they're going to search the car. So this is the dramatics in me. I literally put my hands up right here and I say, "You're going to do whatever you like to do." And I start reciting the Lord's Prayer, close my eyes, just zone out into my own space. Because I know that, like, I'm not going to say yes. They're going to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. I need all of this to be documented, because like, I'm not giving you consent and you're doing what you want to do in a place where my rights are being violated.
Yes, your rights were being violated. You did not commit a crime. Personally, you did not commit a crime.
There's no crime committed.
Nothing.
He already voiced that I didn't commit a crime.
Even if you do have cannabis on you, they had no probable cause to stop you.
Thank you. And that's where we have to go back to. It's like, you have to prove the probable cause. And then you have to have reason to search. Like,
outside of the outfit and the locks with the shells.
Same thing.
You just saw a hippie.
You
assumed that he had weed, and you guessed right, but you did not have any reason to pull him over other than you were bored. Mm-hmm. You were bored.
You were bored.
The last person didn't produce anything. Let's find another one.
It's 50-50, and most people can't afford to get out of the situation anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
So they got you, but the K-9s got you.
The K-9s got me. And I have a hemp farm in Alabama. So like, I know that K-9s can't tell the difference between hemp and cannabis.
Yeah.
So even more than like you finding things in my car, you can't even determine whether it's hemp, which is completely legal in that state. And This is a medical state.
In all 50 states.
This is like, you can't tell me that what I'm doing is still wrong.
Yeah.
So he tries to even more say, and mind you, there's just a box of
a gifted
box that has 6/8 in there.
Okay.
So 3.5 grams in the state of Florida.
They went home and they took it home and smoked it.
They made jokes about how they were going to be smoking so good with their body cams on. Police are super comfortable. And that's what's so crazy. And that's what makes it like, we have to do this, because people are so comfortable to play with people's reality where I'm telling you, what you're doing is a mistake. You're not going to be able to prove this. And they're just okay with that, because they know the consequences will be nothing for them.
Yes.
And
they have no consequences.
They'll trickle down for me forever.
Yeah. And it'll affect you for the rest of your life, because one of the things about the war on drugs is it's not the fact that you have to go to jail and you have to pay all this money to get through the legal system for it to all be done. For the rest of your life, you are now subjugated to being discriminated against. That means you can now be denied education, housing, loans, jobs, anything for the rest of your life. Every application that you fill out, have you ever been arrested and or charged with a felony? You have to check yes for the rest of your life, which means people get to judge you for that for the rest of your life. Like, even on Airbnb, people are being kicked off for 10 years ago, a charge they got 10 years ago. Like, having a record in this country is, I mean, we talk about North Korea or China and
Or Russia.
their social point system. Like, we have that too. That's exactly what that is. That is automatically eliminating you for the rest of your life, for something that now the state of Florida sells legally.
Again, I asked the police officers, sir, isn't this a legal state? How much can you purchase legally in this state? I don't know. That's not my problem. And I had a box with 21 grams, and the legal limit in Florida, or the felony limit in Florida, was 20 grams. It's crazy because, it's not even an ounce of weed, which, like, if we're in LA, I'm not leaving the house without an ounce of weed. I have to get through the day. I got to get through the day.
It's just security. You never know who you're going to run up on. Like,
so I'm going to have that. So, like, not even having what would be my normal travel pack is enough for them to try to say that I can now have to spend 5 years more, pay fines, in jail. Like, this is crazy to me.
Yeah.
So being able to say, I was only in Florida for 7 days. This happens to how many people every 7 days in Florida. Fortunately, I was able to, pay my bond to get out.
Yeah.
How many people cannot afford to even pay their bond to get out? And I'm coming from a place where I really
And that's another classist. When you keep putting poor people in jail and like, oh, you got to pay money to get out. Of course they can't get out. Now there's free labor.
Now I'm a criminal of poverty. That's the only thing that I'm
exactly.
That's my wrongdoing, is not being able to afford your system.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
So much. So then your arrest, you were already a cannabis advocate.
Yeah.
Your arrest kind of adds more to it.
Oh yeah, it makes me be like, more 10 toes
like
down.
If the path wasn't already laid before.
Oh yeah, like I want to. It's like I don't even. I would like the whole state of Florida in a chokehold, because the way that the way that they're doing people, and I have to make so many like funny comparisons, because it's really a situation. It's like being in a bad relationship with the ultimate gaslight, and I have to just laugh at my pain, because I'm really in the situation that I can't get out of right now. But a few thousand miles away is like I have to continue turning the wheels to make sure that rent is being paid based on that same thing that's trying to be demonized in another state, which is crazy. And we talk about Russia being what Russia is to Brittany Griner right now, and like we are still doing the same thing to our people on our dirt, and it goes back to the insanity that I was just speaking. It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing to have national campaigns against other countries for doing things that we're doing right here.
We're doing it right now. It's not like we've stopped. Like, as we speak, somebody is.
Yeah. And that blew my mind. I didn't, when the officer stopped me initially and he found the cannabis, I'm like, sir, can I get my ticket so I can go? Because I know
it's legal.
It's legal.
It's decriminalized. Maybe not in the state of Florida. Probably not. Texas and Florida are two states that kind of are
I was
extreme.
like, I thought it's decriminalized.
Yeah.
I thought like people were not getting arrested. I thought we were trying to get the 40,000 out right now. Like those are.
We're trying to get the 40,000 that are sitting in jail for cannabis. But as some of those cycle out, we put new ones in there too. So yeah, it's an issue. But I'm so sorry that had to happen to you, but on the same token, I know what good is going to come out of it as well. So that's the silver lining for me. All right. So give us some tips on if somebody out there is watching, maybe they're a farmer as well, or they're a young Black man who really loves cannabis and wants to shout it from the rooftops. What advice would you give them?
I mean, wear it on your chest. Like I tell people, like, come out of your cannabis closet, because that's the only way that you will have, that tribe that you're looking for.
Yeah.
If everyone is cannabis, like used in the closet, and we talk in our closet and on our most silent, dark moments about how good it is, then we'll never know that our doctors use cannabis, our lawyers use cannabis, our police officers use cannabis, like our favorite artists use cannabis, like it's our favorite athletes use cannabis, or all these people need to be able to have the access to it. It's so many people that we've blocked off just based on just the demonization and reefer madness and saying that it's gonna make people enraged and rape white women. Like those are things that have been long gone. And
Yeah.
the more that we do and we exercise our amazing crafts and talents with cannabis in our system, telling people about our cannabinoid system and that it's a natural piece of us that's supposed to, like, that's why it stays in our body so long.
Yeah.
Things that are not supposed to be in our body get pushed out of our body.
Yeah.
We have a cannabinoid system because we receive and we make cannabinoids.
Yes.
So it's part of us. We've been miseducated for so long to where do that shit from the rooftops. Go find a rooftop and go smoke you a blunt there. Go like roll you a nice joint there. Have you some edibles there. Find ways to integrate it into your diet, whether it's, you know, making your own butter and oil to make it in. Like I'm working on getting it into my parents every meal now because they've seen, you know, the process. And we come from the Bible Belt of the South, like where everybody's been demonized on just Black living. So not even just cannabis. So many aspects of the socialization of Black people have been just demonized. And now my parents have been able to see, oh, this has just been demonized. It's not even that this is right or wrong. Like this is just like, my nephews, my nieces, my cousins that sag their pants, that's just a piece of their creative expression. The ones that smoke, that's the way that they deal with their whatever they're dealing with. It's so normal that if I just look past that one piece of thing, I can see that there's so much of a person. They're so dynamic. And if we don't like get caught up in the shame, then we can express ourselves in so many ways that make us like happy to be here and happy to contribute. That's what I think is really one of the cool pieces about being a cannabis advocate, is finding something that has been demonized for so long and literally being able to make a living off of it. Because that's, I say it all the time, cannabis is the liberation for Black people, for brown people, for indigenous people. We've been here on this dirt for so long, and this plant has as well. And if you look at people of color and you look at cannabis, the plant, they both had a really crucial part in the history and the formation of where we are now, but then they got demonized.
They got beat up for it.
Yeah, both of them.
But isn't in the beauty of this plant too is, and just like, you know, Black culture, people have only been taught what it is and they believe it, but once you experience something, you experience something, you're like, man, that's not at all what I thought it was, or that person is not at all what I was told. They're actually this. Same thing with this cannabis plant. And if you can get beyond that, you can enjoy this plant, and hey, maybe you'll even become an advocate too. And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my guide to advocacy. Download it now. Thank you so much, Roger, for coming in and sharing your story and those gems. And be on the lookout for the next interview.
Thank you.
Peace.